2018, the New York Times. All the way back in 2018, a journalist by the name of Katie Weaver would make an article simply titled, "What is Glitter?" in the New York Times, in which she explores its origins and what she found by communicating with one of the largest producers of glitter in the world, the company known as GlitterX. Now, everyone knows what glitter is and its multiple uses it has in our day-to-day lives, and perhaps it is a lot more things and is in a lot more things than we would normally think of. However, the article itself was pretty mundane. However, one statement in it would set the internet ablaze with crazy theories about glitter, and where it was going, and what it was being used for. In this article, when talking with a GlitterX representative, they refused to tell Weaver where and who was the largest purchaser of glitter, and that if the public knew, it would change their perception on this business or product forever. Today on Unblurring the Unknown, a peculiar mystery of fascinating intrigue and hidden intentions. Can we get to the bottom of the glitter conspiracy? Welcome back to Unblurring the Unknown, and as always, I am your host, Dominic, and on the surface, today's episode might seem a little kind of boring or mundane on the surface, but I assure you, this topic is extremely interesting, and I found it extremely interesting, and perhaps it will even get your brain going on it as much as it got my brain going on it, because the more I looked into this and the more I researched it, I found it very interesting to theorize and think of the possible culprits in this case. Now, what exactly are we talking about today? Firstly, glitter. Now, I am sure everyone knows what glitter is, but for the sake of today's episode, and the fact for the very few of you out there who might not know what glitter is, let me explain and break it down for you. Now, glitter is a collection of small, reflective flakes that are precision cut and shiny in nature, and often reflect when certain light hits them at different angles. Glitter is made from a variety of materials, such as metal, glass, and even plastic, that is coated in a thin, aluminum-like foil substance. Of course, glitter is used in a variety of places that we know of: cosmetics, paint, arts and crafts, and clothing. Even though the glitter we have come to know currently has a relatively brief history starting back in the 1940s, humankind has been using glitter-like substances for hundreds and hundreds of years, or at least sparkly powder, kind of like glitter, that is. All the way back in the time of the ancient Egyptians, they used ground-up beetles and crystal rocks to make fine-like powders, and they would incorporate it into a variety of items they would use on a daily basis. The Mayan people also used similar ground-up materials that were different colors and used it as this shiny and glittering paint that they would use on their temples. Now, even though humankind has been using sparkly substances like rocks and even beetles to create this old style or old kind of glitter, the modern-day glitter that we know today was accidentally developed by a man named Henry Rutschman. Henry Rutschman was a businessman and an inventor, and he happened to make a machine that he was using for photo and paper cutting in the 1930s and 40s on a farm in New Jersey. Now, it turns out Henry Rutschman's intention was not to make glitter, and while using this kind of photo paper cutting machine, while it would be cutting the photos in the paper or what else he was trying to cut, the machine would sometimes not work properly and actually stutter. Now, when the machine did this stuttering, it would spit out these very small bits of the sparkly paper he was using, effectively making the first form of modern glitter without really trying to. Henry Rutschman would create these little pieces of glitter mostly out of glass. However, when World War II rolled around, the glass he was using to make his glitter became unavailable, so he switched over to making it using plastic. Eventually, he would join forces with his partner, another Henry, this one named Henry Goetz, spelled Goets, so not goats as in like the farm animal goats, but goats as in that spelling. Rutschman and Goetz originally were going to use the glitter as a type of side hustle to help generate extra revenue for this New Jersey farm, but eventually saw that the reward outweighed the risk and made this a full-time gig. And it made sense to them. Hey, we can make this be a profitable enterprise. So they put all their eggs into the glitter basket and went on to making glitter full time. They would go on to form Meadowbrook Farm Inventions, and to this day, they remain one of the largest producers of glitter in the world. Now that we've gotten that little history lesson out of the way, let's talk more about what kind of sent the internet into this frenzy about glitter. In specific, this New York Times article. Now, this article is kind of a little bit of a puff piece, and it goes really in depth about the history of glitter and the glitter industry. However, us normal people can't access it without a subscription to the New York Times, but that's whatever. Now, what's in this article, the journalist Katie Weaver travels to the headquarters of GlitterX, one of the largest manufacturers of glitter in the world, conveniently also located in New Jersey, same as Meadowbrook Farm Inventions. So, needless to say, the glitter world runs through New Jersey. Now, again, I've never been to New Jersey, and I won't talk crap about the state, but a lot of people do. But if there's one thing New Jersey has going for it, it is certainly glitter. Now, while doing this interview for the New York Times, and both talking to a spokesperson and the CEO of GlitterX, Babu Shetty, Weaver would kind of slowly unravel the mystery of glitter and who is buying this glitter, although they never tell her. They never tell her who the purchasers of glitter are, and they kind of are very cryptic about the process of making glitter, and again, the people who buy it, and things of that nature. Now, in the conversation Weaver had with Shetty, the CEO, he was very reserved in his talking about the manufacturing of glitter, and pretty much straight up told Weaver that she could not see the manufacturing process of glitter because of the intense mathematical processes and manufacturing prowess that goes into the creation of glitter. Now, on the surface, that kind of sounds like him thinking he's better than her, but I guess that's my own personal opinion. Now, even if Shetty's comments were slightly rude and vague as fuck, when talking to the representative of GlitterX, the rep also pretty much refused any questions when Weaver asked them about seeing the glitter process or knowing how the process was carried out. They pretty much said, hey, we don't want you seeing it. We appreciate you here. We'll answer all your questions, except you can't know how we make it or who buys it. Now, at one point in this article, the representative was asked by Weaver who the biggest purchaser of glitter was, and the GlitterX representative refused to tell her. The rep was asked off the record if she could tell Weaver, and she refused. She then would allude to the idea that if the general public found out what company/product contained glitter, that it would change the perception of that said company or product. Now, of course, this statement alone got the internet talking. What product could be using most of the world's glitter? And be so, I guess, controversial to the point in which this company can't disclose who this mystery purchaser is. Of course, there is a litany of theories that exist on the internet about what could be a possible culprit in terms of this, and of course, we know already what some uses of glitter are. Obviously, the big ones that might come to the top of our heads are beauty products and cosmetics, arts and crafts, and paint. But glitter, turns out, is in a heck of a lot more products with that. But with that all being said, and that we've kind of provided context to the conspiracy and context to the story in general, let's discuss possible theories here and products that have been put forward as possible culprits to this kind of secretive product or secretive organization that GlitterX and possibly the entire glitter industry doesn't want us to know about. Now, the first possible theory or the first possible suspect here would be the boating and automotive industry. Now, a lot of people on the internet, when I was researching this, really liked this theory, but I'm going to kind of debunk why I don't like it here in just a second. Of course, this is a big initial suspect, and you might be thinking boating and automotive? Where is their boating and where is their glitter being used in the boating and automotive industry? Now, it turns out glitter is very often used in paint for boating and in the automotive industry, and this can be very much seen when looking at certain boats and cars that a paint or lacquer on the vehicle or boat has glitter in it. Now, some people who like this theory and stand by this theory have perhaps stated that the boating and automotive industry does not want its consumer base to know that glitter is in a majority of its paints because it could possibly hurt the businesses because cars and boats often have a masculine image attached to them. And that's kind of the argument that people say, but to me, this just doesn't check out. Now, I do understand how glitter can get some kind of maybe some really masculine people worked up, but glitter is pretty clearly recognizable. It's not like glitter is being trying to be snuck in anywhere. You can see it. You can very visibly see it. You see vintage muscle cars get repainted and there's glitter in the paint. You can see it because of the way it shines. You can go and see bass boats, for example, that have, even though they're a black paint, they're very shiny on the outside and there's glitter very clearly in the paint. And you can see that, and that obviously doesn't stop people from spending, in the case of, maybe a really nice bass boat that's got this really sparkly paint job, that doesn't stop people from spending 30 to 40 grand, if not more, on these boats that just have a sparkly paint on them. If you don't want the sparkly paint, you don't buy it. But that has not stopped people. So if people are concerned that sparkly paint is going to hurt their revenue and hurt maybe this masculine image, it just doesn't check out to me because they're still making sales off these things regardless if there's glitter in it or not. Now, like I said, if you are looking to spend a considerable amount of money, especially when it comes to maybe a car or a boat, I know a lot of people who probably aren't bothered by the idea of glitter, and some of those paint patterns and paint schemes with glitter look pretty good, and I certainly would have no issue with buying a vehicle that had some type of glitter in the paint as long as it looked good. And I think that a lot of people would stand on the same basis that with, if it looks good and it's got glitter in it, who cares? But I can understand again how some people who have that very kind of masculine image could kind of be rubbed the wrong way. But there's just not, this doesn't seem secretive enough. You can very clearly see the glitter. A lot of paints say they contain glitter, and there's just not enough there's not enough, secretive nature about this for it to be a smoking gun, in my opinion. Now, the second theory I want to talk about is the cosmetics industry. Now, I did just briefly cover this, but of course, the cosmetic industry is a huge contributor to the purchasing of glitter. After all, the cosmetic industry is a huge one, generating roughly $49 billion annually back in 2022. Now, on the surface, it would make sense that the cosmetic industry would be a big buyer of glitter, especially considering the amount of revenue they make. However, much like the automotive and boating industry, there is nothing secretive about glitter being in certain cosmetic products. It is very visible in the products, so this on the surface wouldn't make any sense. If this in fact was the culprit, why would GlitterX need to be so secretive with the fact that they sell to cosmetic companies? That might just be the most common use of glitter, or at least one, that the average person knows about. Now, I will elaborate here in further theories, but perhaps the only secretive nature of this is that they don't want some products that do contain glitter to be marketed with glitter. Maybe especially skincare supplements and things of that nature. Glitter has kind of come under fire recently from environmental rights activists claiming, that obviously glitter is now mostly plastic, that these plastic particles could be harmful to yourself, they could be harmful to the environment, they could be harmful to the ocean. So if you like the idea that maybe the cosmetics industry is a culprit here, you could say, hey, maybe some of these skincare companies are putting glitter inside of their products to, maybe make their client's skin shine, when in reality, when you're rubbing that skincare routine on your face, it contains glitter. What you're really doing is you're basically rubbing plastic into your skin. Now, to me, that would be the only secret of nature at work here, and if I were to go down this route, that's kind of what I would go with. But again, to me, the cosmetics industry, we know they use a lot of glitter, and there's just not enough kind of secretive nature here again, and it doesn't check all the boxes for me. Now, the third theory I want to talk about is microtagants. Now, I hope I pronounced that right, and if I didn't, I do apologize. And this is the first theory here that is something that the average person might not be familiar with, and that being microtagants. Now, what are microtagants? Microtagants are microscopic particles that are used to identify objects and substances and are most often used in the security sector and in anti-counterfeiting. Now, these are pretty much microplastics that, when put under different levels of UV light, can identify and basically authenticate your product. For example, if you put this specific form of microtagant in your money or on the surface of your money, you can verify that it is yours based off of the color response it gives you when subjected to UV light. Now, that sounds pretty cool, to be honest with you. Now, it just so happens that some of these microtagants contain glitter. Now, some do and some don't. However, again, this is something that they aren't super secretive with. You can do some digging and figure out that glitter is sometimes used in these microtagants to verify a company's goods and, of course, add an extra layer of security to others. Now, the only thing that would kind of make sense with this theory is if we go back to the secret nature of all of this, is that if these microtagants could be used in a heck of a lot more products than we think, and maybe if we really want to speculate, maybe they are put in virtually everything that is interacted with by humans, and that might be a very outlandish theory if kind of everything kind of contains these microscopic plastic particles that are used to verify everything. Kind of very funky in that if you come into contact with it all day, I don't think that sounds necessarily malicious, but certainly kind of adds to the level of, everything you owned can be verified and things of that nature. So kind of a weird, pivot in terms of a theory. But again, I think that this might be a worthy contender in terms of what glitter is being used for. But again, I wouldn't put all my eggs into one basket for this. I do not think that this would be a primary culprit, and I do not think that this would be a prime suspect for why they'd be so secretive or so reclusive about who they're selling this glitter for. If in fact they were selling a majority of this glitter to these microtagant companies, again, microtagants say they contain glitter. Again, this is no secret. So again, you're back to the idea of, yeah, it contains glitter and they're probably buying a lot of it, but why are they being so, hey, this will change the entire landscape of this product or company as you know it if you found out? That to me just doesn't sound off here when we're talking about microtagants and the companies that make them. Now, the next theory I want to talk about is fake sand. Now, this is another possible theory that I've seen in a few places, and that it is being used in, of course, glitter is being used in the fake sand industry. Now, of course, fake sand is not a new thing whatsoever, but this theory, and the ones that I've kind of heard, and I actually kind of like them, is that these big millionaires, perhaps over in the Middle East, or maybe areas like the Middle East, or maybe in Turkey and these other places that have a whole bunch of money, they're millionaires and they're building these huge resorts, and they're buying up tons and tons of glitter to incorporate into fake sand for their hotels and resorts. And that, of course, this isn't public knowledge because of the environmental impact that glitter can have in the wild and in the oceans. Again, when I talked about the cosmetics theory, I did briefly touch on this. Again, glitter is mostly plastic and glass, and for a long time, again, recently, but still even before that, environmental activist groups have advocated against glitter and, of course, the harm it could do to our oceans and wildlife. Now, again, I remember vividly hearing back when microplastics were really big in the news a couple years ago, and this is a prime example of that, of a microplastic. And it might not be one that we initially think of, but it certainly does fit the criteria for what a microplastic is and kind of the harm it can do, especially to our oceans. Now, perhaps these huge Middle Eastern billionaires, like the ones in Dubai, they're already suffering from a sand shortage, believe it or not. Even though these high-end resorts in parts of Asia and the Middle East suffer from sand shortages, it actually turns out a lot of the sand shortage in the world has to do with building materials and sand's use in making concrete, not really artificial beaches. Now, again, there's kind of some areas in the world, again, that are suffering from the sand shortages, and you might be thinking, oh, the Middle East is in the middle of the desert. Why can't they use the desert sand? And from kind of what I found is obviously that sand is a different shape. So they can't take desert sand and use it in the manufacturing of concrete and things of that nature. And I have to imagine these billionaires, who could purchase anything that they want, obviously look at the desert sand and say, okay, maybe it's too big, maybe it's too grainy, it doesn't feel great on your feet, when you're walking down the beach. So let's go out there and let's buy a whole bunch of fake sand, let's throw a whole bunch of glitter in it, so it looks like you've got this gorgeous white sand beach, when in fact it's really just perhaps ground up rock, fine particles of dirt and maybe some sand in there, and then obviously glitter. Now, I think this theory could have some footing if in fact this entire thing was true and that these millionaires in the Middle East, were buying up all of this fake sand. But we just have no way to prove that. Now, of course, this would kind of check the secretive box. It would also kind of check this idea that, if people found out, it would change everything. Because if people who go and visit these massive beach resorts, their mindsets would probably be changed if they knew that these resorts were using artificial sand on their beaches instead of their sand being, natural, or this naturally white and shiny color that, that they might look at in a brochure or something like that. And if they found out it was just fake sand full of plastic, again, that would certainly change my perspective, and it would certainly change a lot of other people's perspectives as well. So far, I do think this is the most promising theory, and so far it checks a lot of the boxes in terms of being very secretive and something maybe the public might not be aware of. Now, the next theory I want to talk about is toothpaste. Now, you might be wondering, toothpaste? Really? And before you say that, there might actually be a good theory behind this. After all, some toothpastes do have some shiny flecks inside of them, and it would make realistic sense for the toothpaste companies to keep it hush-hush that their products contain glitter, and that if their customer base found out that they were basically rubbing their teeth every morning with microplastics, it of course would seriously hurt their bottom line. And to be honest, this makes a lot of sense. It would alter the toothpaste industry forever if this came out to the public, and if this happened to be true. Now, there is only one catch with the toothpaste theory, and that being a law passed in 2015 by then President Obama called the Microbead-Free Waters Act, which banned the usage of plastic flecks in products designed to be rinsed off after use, which would pretty much ban toothpaste companies from putting glitter in their products, pretty much. Now, the only way this theory would work is if in fact Glitterex and maybe the other glitter companies as well continued to do this and continued to supply these toothpaste companies with glitter, and the toothpaste companies continued to use glitter, and of course that would be against federal law. And if that was the case, they would certainly want to keep it secretive. They'd certainly want to keep it hush-hush. And if the money was good enough and if the return was good enough, it would certainly provide a lot of motivation for them to keep doing this. Now, the last theory I want to present before I dive into my own personal thoughts on this entire case is chaff. Now, what is chaff? Now, chaff is used by the military with their fighter jets, and it is actually discharged from aircraft to mess with radar guidance. Now, it is often discharged with flares when an aircraft comes under fire from enemy heat-seeking missiles. Now, the flares will of course divert the missile, while the chaff that is discharged from the airplane will mess with the guidance systems of the opposing fighter jet. Now, from the US government, they are pretty open about what chaff is and what it is made out of, and this is the quote they use, and again, this is a quote, "millions of tiny aluminum or zinc-coated fibers." Now, the Department of Defense in 2018 also came forward and said that they don't have a sole source of where they get their chaff from, leading some people to speculate whether or not they are supplementing some of this chaff with actually glitter from these glitter companies. Again, going back to the possible environmental impact, it would not be great if people found out that the government was dumping all of this glitter into the air, into the environment, and things of that nature. And it wouldn't go over well. And of course, it would bring back to the idea of why GlitterX is being so secretive. Maybe GlitterX wants to say, hey, we can't tell you that the US government is basically using a lot of this glitter, a lot of these microplastics, to just discharge them into the air. Now, of course, that wouldn't go over very well, and maybe it would kind of cover the idea of why they're being so secretive, but the US government is pretty open and say, that they use chaff, and many people don't really bat an eye at the idea of chaff and what it is, and that the US government is using it. Now, while this theory checks many boxes, of course, it still leaves the one unchecked of, why so secretive? Why, to me, again, if it was the U.S. government, you'd probably say, hey, we can't really tell you, it's classified or whatever, and this is, of course, me just speculating. But chaff, of course, is this, these aluminum or zinc-coated fibers, and it's being discharged, a one-time use. And if it was glitter, I could understand people kind of getting up in arms about the idea that all this plastic is going out into the environment. But like I said, a lot of people don't really seem to care or are not really on the radar, if you like my pun there, in terms of chaff as a contender. I didn't really see this a whole lot. This was probably popped up once or twice in my research. So it doesn't seem like a lot of other people who have covered this and covered the glitter conspiracy like the chaff theory either. Again, maybe that's saying something. Maybe it isn't. That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, to me, chaff is not a worthy contender. But I can see why some people would certainly like it to be a worthy contender. But with all that being said, let's go into my own thoughts on this entire case, the glitter conspiracy, the possible culprits at hand, and when it comes to my own thoughts on this, I instantly go to some type of consumer product, and that it must be some type of big company. Otherwise, it would not, change the whole fabric about how said product is received. Now, and that kind of seems to be the feedback, that GlitterX was kind of alluding to without really saying anything to Katie Weaver during this interview and during the article. But I could see it being used in, of course, a majority of the theories I just discussed. But to me, there must be some application to either a food product or something that we as humans interact with on a daily basis for this to be so big of a hush-hush type of thing. And I could be mistaken, but of course that is where my mind is leading me to this point. I also think that perhaps the glitter could be being bought by the US military for use in explosives and weapons, of course. And I've seen that theory a couple other places as well. Now, I could also think it could be a combination of buyers that are fueling these rumors, but I also think part of this could be to blame on the GlitterX rep, because she really only created this drama by kind of dragging this question out. If you were to ask me, gun to my head, what my final say is on this is that GlitterX is selling a lot of this glitter to some type of food company. And unfortunately, most likely this glitter that is being sold to this food company, the glitter is being put in food products targeting children. And the reason I think this is because children, tend to like things that are sparkly and shiny and things like that. And of course, glitter is small shards of plastic or glass. So the idea that the world's youth could be consuming this glitter just because these companies are maximizing their profits, I don't think is such a far-fetched idea. Now, it certainly is a dark theory, but I like it. And I, of course, hope and pray that this is not the case, but I honestly think that this could be what is responsible. And of course, we are probably never going to know what the culprit of the glitter conspiracy is. And to be honest with you, it could be one of these things that the internet has taken and run with so far. Maybe we're looking into things too hard. Maybe we're being paranoid about what glitter is in. Maybe we're being paranoid about the idea that microplastics are in everything. Who knows? But this topic was kind of fun, and it was a fun little side episode, to throw in there for this week. And again, I hope you all enjoyed it. And with that all being said, that's going to kind of do it for me on the glitter conspiracy. Let me know what you think about the glitter conspiracy. What do you think could be at play? If anybody else has done some research into this, I know this got really popular on the internet, really popular on TikTok. Let me know. Feel free to let me know in the comments section. Feel free to send your thoughts to my email about what you think the possible culprit could be. I read my comments all the time, and I certainly get back to them. If you tell me what you think it is, I will certainly get back to you. Now, again, like I said, this was a fun little side episode to throw in there for this week. and I hope everybody enjoyed it. However, I do hope to return to some other topics you might be more used to hearing from me, like the unexplained, unsolved mysteries and murders and all of that fun but not so fun stuff very, very soon. But in the meantime, I wanted to do this episode, cross it off my list, but to touch back on the idea, I tell all you folks listening every single week that I take topic suggestions. This was a topic that was suggested to me. So again, like I said, I say it at the end of every episode to send me topic suggestions. I genuinely mean it. I do cover them. Again, like I said, this episode was a topic suggestion, and I've finally gotten around to doing it, and came across and did this finally, took it off my list. And it was a very fun one, and I should have covered it sooner. I was just so preoccupied with every time I'd go on the internet and I'd find some new unsolved murder or mystery or something like that, and I'm like, oh, I got to research this one for this week. But again, I decided to pivot, go with something maybe fun, maybe low-key, with the glitter conspiracy. But again, I see your suggestions. I do see them, so feel free to send them to me via Instagram direct message. Send them to my email, which is unboringtheunknown@gmail.com. Now, if you're listening to this on Spotify, please turn on post notifications so you get notified every time I post a new video. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe. Greatly helps me out with trying to get myself onto the algorithm. I'm trying so hard. So please like, comment, subscribe, and I greatly appreciate it. With that being said, I am also on TikTok. Guess what? TikTok didn't get banned. I said it in a previous episode that, hey, I'm on TikTok, but I don't know if TikTok's going to get banned. It seems like we got another 90 days at least until the decision is made on TikTok. So for the time being, I am still on TikTok at Unblurring the Unknown. So feel free to check me out there. But with that being said, that is going to do it on this week's episode on the Glitter Conspiracy. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all had a wonderful January so far and a wonderful start to the new year so far. But with that being said, that is going to do it from me, and I will see you all on the next one.